Made it through the wilderness. This week was something else. How was yours? Sometimes I am actually shocked at how much one week can hold and how much change and how much transformation can go on in just a matter of not only just a few days, but even just a mere few hours. But we made it through the wilderness, for the most part, at least, for a minute. And in fact, one of the saving graces I think of all of it is that me and my kids are all a bit safer from the coronavirus. That's always a good thing. And I indulged myself in painting my nails blue. 'Tis the season. And also indulged in making some warm bourbon with some dissolved raw honey, and so like kind of a simple syrup that I warmed up in a pan and then added some bourbon and made a nice, very nice warm bourbon, and then later added my spicy, kind of like a fall spice honey, and it turned out really nice. Actually, I should probably create a kind of a, finesse a really good recipe and write it down and keep it as part of my repertoire, because it turned out really well. And I am making use of the local library facilities where they've got these new lock boxes where you punch in your code and it pops open the box of where all your books are being held and reserved. That was kind of a cool thing. Felt a little futuristic, a little bit more like things are functioning finally. And I held on to my library books for like a good solid 6 months because I was in denial of all of the changes that had taken place since the time I was in the library checking out my books, and I just needed to hang on to that time that I went to the library and everything just seemed normal, like however long ago that was now, like March-ish. Yeah, so still kind of calling this my October Summer Nights series because it was like 72 degrees yesterday. 50 something today. It gets pretty cold now at night though, but this is I think my favorite time of year is this like summer autumn season. It's like a hybrid of seasonal qualities that make for some really beautiful days, very beautiful fall colors. I've been enjoying that quite a bit. And I tend to kind of, I don't know, like I'm drawn to the colors, the warm colors of oranges and umbers and burnt ambers, and I find that color presents quite often in my work, even when I don't mean it to, and it just happens. So it's kind of been this interesting journey to kind of surprise myself with what colors I'm actually drawn to at this point in time, which is actually a vote of confidence because oranges and umbers and burnt ambers are pretty confident, courageous colors, in my opinion. So I have something clever planned for next week because next Saturday is Halloween, and I'm so excited that it's falling on a Saturday because it makes my life so much easier to do a Halloween episode on Halloween. So it's a nice little gift from the universe, and that kind of just sort of serendipitously happened. And I may or may not rehearse. I will probably at least do a makeup rehearsal because that's going to be pretty fun, and I definitely want to make sure I get that down. That part's got to be right, otherwise it won't work at all. So I'm hoping that by the time I've kind of come up with the whole idea of for the skit and get my makeup rehearsal down, that it'll be a pretty good time, and that should be an episode that I think I'll definitely keep on the books as part of my public record of whatever this whole ensemble has been now for the better part of this year. And I have a pretty decent archive on my YouTube channel now that I've created. I always kind of have a lot of mixed feelings about whether I want to share it. So pretty understated in general for like a lot of the things that I do. It's like the whole like fight to like be expressive and to be kind of outgoing and like create the work of art and present it and be in the public eye, but then at the same time like not wanting to do those things at all, and like wanting to be immersed in the art and creating an inner space and have that solitude and that kind of that unique individual experience all to myself. And that's always, you know, the back and forth of all the things that I do, really. Such a good time. Or like today I realized that my Instagram is like this interesting mix of doing a lot of nature and landscape photos and then splashing in here and there these cocktail photography photographs that I've been kind of working on lackadaisically now this last 6 or 8 months. And again, like that's actually where I found that I have this affinity for the like the dark orange and ambers and umbers and all kind of like this whole like range of orange shades, because bourbon, although this particular bourbon is pretty, that's more like an amber, falls within that range. Lucky for me. So there's a few bourbon pictures, and then there's the forest, the river, clouds, and it's really just a lovely collection of photographs. And that's kind of like the inner and the outer details. And a few years ago, a songwriter was explaining that part of his process of lyric writing is about, you know, drawing on the inner and outer details, like the actual, you know, like what a person is feeling or experiencing, and then also writing about what the environment is and like what's outside or what's in the room, or, you know, kind of like the external details. And so I was reminded of that particular thing. Like my photography is kind of following that same philosophy of the inner and the outer detail. So I'm pretty pleased with the collection I'm building there. And that's, of course, at dawn.earth. I also realized that I have to overhaul my entire website at some point in the next few months, probably sooner than later, which I wasn't expecting. But just realized that there's like some technical functioning that's not happening that needs to happen, and it's not an easy fix. Like it's going to require me to like basically rebuild it. So that was exciting news. I guess that's one of my winter tasks, is to do that particular realm of things. And then I thought, well, gosh, like, well, that's kind of cool, because now I can start to change like what I showcase, like how I present it, like how I give it that center stage for whatever period of time. So that's also kind of exciting. It's gonna, you know, be some down in the weeds trench work to get it done, but it's also an opportunity to kind of resituate myself and all these things that I'm working on, and present it as more of a coherent and cohesive collection of work, which will be kind of, even just for my own benefit, I think doing that will help me to feel like there is a coherent, cohesive vision to the work that I do. I know that there is, but I often feel like it's just kind of like a little bit over here, a little bit over there, a little bit over there, and then like they're just kind of connected. Like I'm pretty sure it's connected, but you know, sometimes some of this stuff feels like a few train rides away. So, yeah. How are things in your world? How was your week? I am pleased to see that Saturday Night Live has finally come back in session. I told myself that I would try my best not to compete with that time frame, even though I don't even have a television technically. So I don't even really watch it, but I just kind of like have always felt like reserving Saturday nights for comedy and, you know, I don't know, like political satires. It's kind of like church in a way. It's like Saturday night church. So I appreciate that my live time is in the same neck of the woods as Saturday Night Live, but I also don't want to compete with that time frame because I want you to also enjoy Saturday night church. Saturday night church is very important. And tonight I think they have Adele, and actually I'm not even sure anything else that I have going on. I actually catch like little snippets on my Instagram. They post a lot of snippets on Instagram from the show, which is cool because then you start to see like the production behind the scenes of how when they do their readings and how they go about creating the show and like the different pieces that they put together, all the scenes that they do with like the main host. They have like a series of like 8 or 10 photographs they put together to promote it, and they're all just really artistically, like artfully delightful. And so it's an interesting, like a completely different way to experience this production by not actually even really ever watching the full production, unless I find it on the web somewhere and just watch the whole thing, which I reckon I could do. I think they're like in their third or fourth night since they've been back on the networks. So, as much as I would like to believe that I could get back to my own comedic beat, I am like really awkward, and it's not quite what it used to be. I don't know why. I think it's probably just, you know, the hell of life really starts to wear you down. It's not so funny anymore. Until you find a way to make it funny, because that's how you survive it. So I will survive it for another week, and hopefully things will start to get a bit better, and hopefully this blue nail polish actually stays. This is actually only one coat. I'm really impressed with the level of blue from one coat of polish, which is like Studio M, I think, or something. So next week, Halloween, I've got some pretty cool ideas of what I'm going to do. May or may not do some actual rehearsal. We'll do at least one makeup rehearsal for sure. That might end up somewhere on my Instagram or somewhere else, just because, or probably TikTok, also at dawn.earth, because makeup is such an investment. It's like, it's such a process. Like, you got to capture some of that. Like, that's, you know, like otherwise it's like there's no return on the investment. So some of that will end up somewhere, and then lo and behold, that will be the precursor for what will be my first Halloween episode. So I hope that you will join me next week, sometime after 10:28 and shortly before midnight, so that we can enjoy When the Mood Strikes Midnight together on Halloween. Alright, until then, cheers.